Hey everybody, welcome to day 5 of the Ask Me Almost Anything Marathon. I'm your host, Stacy Casson, also known as the Clarity Concierge. For those of you who can't see me, I'm a very tan woman. I have short, wavy, salt and pepper hair. There is a white flower in my hair. I wear clear glasses. I have on a yellow scarf and a black tube top that you can't see right now, but I promised I have on clothing today. And behind me is a red background. So before we get started, we'll go ahead and take a moment to arrive. We'll start with a deep breath in and exhale. Deep breath in and exhale. Deep breath in and exhale. All right, so today was a Monday and Manic Monday post, so you all did not get a Pokemon card of the day. So today we're going to give you a Pokemon card of the evening, and you can use it through tomorrow because tomorrow I'm going to be participating in the Ban LinkedIn on Tuesdays ban. So I'm going to cancel tomorrow. Ask Me Almost Anything live, and you won't get a Pokemon reading, but I hope you will read up on what is happening and do your part to encourage LinkedIn and other organizations to stop censoring people that are speaking up against genocide. Anyway, our card for the day, this one's kind of sparkly, is Cosmoem. And Cosmoem is this kind of orb star thing encased in gold. It looks like sometimes it looks like an eye, but it can either be a moon, like a sun, or a star, depending on, I guess, which Pokemon card you get. And this one is on a pillow next to a little girl. It's kind of creepy, but I think it's trying to like be a guardian over the trainer. So this one is a psychic Pokemon card, which means to me tapping into your intuition. And this card is Starvation, which is kind of cool. And this particular Pokemon, the more light it absorbs, the more that it grows. So, what are you tapping into? And is this helping you grow, or is this maybe compressing you? And your intuition can also be a source of protection. So, when something just doesn't seem right, doesn't pass the smell test, your gut is kind of clenching on that. That can be a way to protect you from danger or harm. How many people didn't get on a plane or decided not to go to something and something horrible happened, and they're thankful, although saddened, that they listened to their intuition about certain things. So your intuition can be your best source of protection. And speaking of gut guides and things like that, today I talked about feeling your feelings and giving yourself space to do that, and in community. But the other way of feeling your feelings, other than just thinking about the feelings, is to think about where they reside in your body. There's a meditation on sadness that I look at on YouTube, but I think it's a good meditation for any strong emotion. And one of the things that they guide do is notice where it feels in your body, where that feeling resides in your body. So right now I'm really excited to be here today. The feeling for me is my heart being full. There is a sense of lightness. I feel energized about being here. The energy for me is kind of around like my neck area and throat, which makes sense because I'm talking to you all today. So that's something and I'm going to keep challenging myself on the so's. But when you are in your feelings, also kind of notice how it manifests. It could be your eyes are leaking. It could be tension in your back or neck. You may notice that your hands are clenched, and that also helps to further ground you and bring you into the presence of the feelings. Because if you're anything like me, sometimes we intellectualize our feelings and we don't feel them. We notice them to the extent that we become disassociated and disconnected from our feelings. That's just my own personal experience with feelings. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychiatrist. So if you need help, please seek help. That's not me. If you need professional help on dealing with feelings, I highly encourage you to, if it is possible and available to you, to look into therapy. I found it to be very helpful in my own life. So I don't have any questions in the comments yet. Today, I kind of wanted to go through a question that I posted on LinkedIn, but I think it ties into this idea of community. I have a friend and we talk about this idea of ideological purity, and that sometimes getting in the way of the work. If you've ever worked on a committee and people are trying to get things done together, that there's disagreements on how things can be done, and that's okay. We don't all have to walk in lockstep. I promise I can use words today. We don't all have to do the same thing and act the same. But the question that someone posed was about being in community, and how do you stay in community if certain actions from that community are harmful to you? Oftentimes it seems like our choice is to walk away from that community, and that absolutely is something that you can do. I mean, I'm not advocating for anybody to stay in situations where they're harmed or abused, but if the purpose of the community, like I'm part of a interracial sister community, and we are trying to bridge those gaps between white women and women of the global majority. So how do we do that? And what would happen if some it has not been the case, but if somebody in the community wasn't pulling their weight or with really harmful things, like how do you, as that person that's impacted, how do you navigate being in community? So the first card we get is drowsy. Drowsy is it's got like a little horn on its, this is not a great picture. It's kind of like a camel hippo horse thing walking on the beach. It's a beautiful day. And this is also a psychic type Pokemon. I don't know why it's so hard for me to use words today. And this Pokemon eats dreams. It's walking on the beach. It's beautiful. It's an eater of dreams. And I think when we're thinking about a community environment, generally there is a shared dream or vision that the community is trying to bring about. And drowsy is the dream eater. Not that that's a bad thing, but in these spaces of community, sometimes the harm isn't a physical harm. It's not somebody physically attacking you. It's death by 1,000 words. It's death by 1,000 cuts, because people aren't understanding where you're coming from, or deliberately misunderstanding where you're coming from, weaponizing their tears or weaponizing your words, taking things out of context, gaslighting you. It is a psychological minefield sometimes to be in community. So members of the community that maybe have more privilege, as you think about your spaces, that's something to also consider. What kind of space are we building? That's why there's community guidelines. How are we following the community guidelines? Are the community guidelines being enforced the same way across the board? LinkedIn, um, or any of the other social media things. Are you enforcing these guidelines the same way? Do you give certain demographics different treatment or preferential treatment? So how does that dream look or is it a shared dream or vision? And with the name being drowsy, are we perhaps asleep at the wheel? Perhaps there's members of your community that have more privilege. Are they taking advantage of that privilege? We saw, well, I didn't watch it, but on the Grammys yesterday, Jay-Z spoke out against Beyonce not having won a Grammy despite having so many awards. And Elsie Deshay today posted like, it would break your heart, just so many Black women that have never won an album of the year in their life. And it's across the board in so many different fields of people don't get recognition or their work is stolen and other people get the credit. So with this community, those that are privileged, and you have people like Annie Lennox that after she sang her tribute to Sinead O'Connor, asked for a ceasefire as well. So if you're in a community, are you leveraging the privilege you have so that the people that are potentially open to more harm in your community, that it really is a safe space, that you're willing to speak up, and most of the work is not already put the marginalized people or the people that have the most to lose in your community. So that's potentially what's happening in certain communities or certain relationships in the workplace, right? What's happening there. So what's the challenge? And this one you have your card, and this is Mitzi's determination. And I think that is the essence of the challenge, is that people are determined to try and make this work, but it's really hard to keep up with that determination if you are being gaslit, if people, oh, and sorry, this card is a looks like a woman with red hair and a ponytail, with their hands on their hips, just standing, arms akimbo against some, it looks like rocks. So that's the card picture, and this is a supporter card. So that's where some of the conflict comes into play, and sometimes it is other people's determination that makes them unable to recognize that harm is happening, because you want your group to be perfect, you want your community to be perfect. There's no problems, Shangri-La, everything is wonderful, everything is awesome, right? In Legoland, everything is awesome, but it's not awesome sometimes. And that determination of the people to make it work can't happen on an island. Drowsy is by itself on this island, and a community has more people. So I think it kind of goes to that spirit that no man is an island. And how do you stay determined in this space, right? So what can help us in this space of community? I'm just going through my bag of Pokemon cards here, and we get Tynamo. I really like this card. Tynamo, it's a little white minnow looking Pokemon in the water. And Tynamo is kind of the epitome of teamwork. According to the card, one alone can emit a trickle of electricity. So a group of them gathers to unleash a powerful electroshock. Tynamo is a electric Pokemon type. So this is again about energy and flow, and how does what does energy need to be able to be conducted. When we're talking about a community, then it can't be upon one person. And what would help people that are being harmed is if there is a collective action to support those people. But again, that's not something you can control, aside from being brave or courageous enough to speak. You see something being done, again, to leverage the privilege that you have in community spaces, so that people who are struggling in the community don't have to do all of the heavy lifting. And there is this sense of being brave, of modeling, speaking your needs, speaking how you feel, with the hope that and I don't like the word hope, but with the idea that in a community, everyone in there is generally grown-ups and we know how to disagree effectively. And there's some lines that you're not going to cross on what you disagree on. We're not, if you're in a community, disagree on the right for people to be allowed to be human beings. That's a big no-no. Like, we can't disagree that people don't have a right to exist. You're not going to get anywhere. That's not something that can be compromised. And I've spoken about that in past talks. So it's the power of tiny actions to counter those things. Maybe if you are the person that's being harmed, it is, and you want to be in community, it is trying to communicate with other people. I'm a big fan, and it's so simple in words, but it's more difficult in practice, in this principle of nonviolent communication. And I'm looking up the author. It's a book by Marshall Rosenberg, and this is about listening for need and communicating in a way that creates win-win situations. It isn't about establishing boundaries, but not boundaries in a way that is potentially confrontational to other people. And I think there has been criticism about this book that it it kind of makes the victims have to do the heavy lifting. But in my reading of it, and again, this is just my interpretation, it's about communicating in a way you can recognize other people's needs and also identify what you need. And sometimes that has to be space in a situation. Like, hang on, I need some water. See, I'm communicating my need for water. I recognize it might not be as interesting for you to watch me drink water, but if we want to create this space together, I need to be able to talk since I'm the only one with a screen right now, but I'll definitely read your comments. I never said I have a doctorate degree in nonviolent communication, but I'm trying. So Tynamo, it's, can you build alliances in your community? And alliances still feels like faction, but can you try and build consensus in this community? And if not, then yeah, maybe it's time to walk away. But I'd hate to walk away from something just because there was a misunderstanding. And I know that's so often used in gaslighting. I'm probably digging a hole here, but I think if we really want to give community a chance, it is being open to those things, and the other members of the community need to be open to that as well. You might hear things that hurt your feelings, but hurt feelings aren't going to kill you, but it could cause real death for other people because of the impacts to their mental health. And so the final card is, what is the next step if you are trying to hold community place where you're potentially harmed? And that is the Fighting Energy Pokemon card. This is a glowing dark orange sphere with a black stylized fist, and it has like comet trails behind it. So like, your next step is to give it a good college try. Give it an effort, right? It's not about, I've definitely put my foot in my mouth sometimes. And today I was wrong. And I just said, yeah, you know what? I was wrong. I'm really sorry. And here's what I'm going to do differently next time. And this wasn't a case of hurting someone's feelings. This was just being factually incorrect in an assessment of a situation. I said, oh, this has to be redone again. And they're like, we can't see what needs to be redone. And I took another look and said, you're absolutely right. I was wrong. I'm really sorry about that. And here's what I'm going to do differently next time, because I figured out why I thought it hadn't been updated. And here's what I'm going to do next time. And guess what? The other person told me they were sorry too for the actual reason why we had to go through this. And I'm like, no, we're learning together. And that's building community. That's being willing to not be defensive if somebody gives you feedback. That's an important part of being in community as well. I have put posts on LinkedIn, and the response seemed harsh to me, and I didn't just jump back and respond. I just sat with myself a little bit and went through, I think, what a lot of people in the golden majority have to go through. I have the privilege because of how I look. I don't have to as much, but that's not even right, that I haven't done it. And that's something I've sat with myself as well, because weighing and parsing the things you're going to say is something that Black women have to do all day long because of how their words can be misconstrued. So people that have more privilege can sit there and think about, how is your word, and this was not my idea, this was from our group, how will your words impact people that are farther away from the power center? How will your words impact them? In a community setting, it's being willing to accept feedback and really look at it as a gift. It is a gift. So back to my other example, I sat with myself and then I responded instead of reacting. And they supported my comments. I felt like, yes, I got it right, or at least I'm on the same page as the other person. I could definitely have taken it in a different way, and that was appear to have been their intention. So it's a good thing to just take a moment and fight for understanding. But again, if you've done your part and other people aren't willing to do their part, they're not willing to see your needs, then perhaps you need to walk from that. So I hope that's helpful for people that are going through those kind of things. I don't see any other questions in the comments right now. So what I do when I'm at that stage is I like to use Tigro. Is a coaching technique for people that are working with people that aren't quite sure what they want to talk about. So looking at that, we get bergamot. Bergamot looks like a upside down frozen ice cream cone if the cone was made out of wind, and but it's ice here. And then the ice cream was kind of look like snow. It has two beady glowing eyes, and this one is a water Pokemon. It's an icy block, and let's see, they freeze opponents solid, and they live in herds. Okay, so we have water, which is tends to me be about feelings, and this is frozen solid. So when I'm thinking about what is a potential topic, it could be about being disconnected from your feelings, being frozen solid, and what could that mean? Like how can we tap into that? Is that a protective mechanism? Is that something that you're trying to freeze people out? Why are we trying to freeze people out in that situation? So the next one would be maybe, well, what's the goal with that? And wow, it's so interesting to me what comes up. We get fire. So we have ice and fire, a fire energy card, which is a glowing orange sphere with a fire on in there. And that would mean to me, just looking at these together, what comes to mind is perhaps it's time to melt some of those defenses, come out from freezing people out, and allow a little warmth into your life. Then what are the opportunities to do that? And this one, we get a water Pokemon card. So this is a glowing sphere with a comet. It's got some extra pizzazz to it and a little water droplet. And this comes across to me as kind of having a change of state. When you ice, you get water. And some of that could be envisioning, what does thawing or letting people look like to me? What are the things I have to gain? And actually, I went to Oh Too Soon. This is the reality of the situation. So R is the reality, and what is realistic in the situation. And ice melting to water is realistic. Thawing a little, changing state, that is possible from ice to water. It takes a certain amount of heat for that to happen. And so is the person who maybe is trying to come out of their shell and let more people in. Are they ready to do that? Perhaps you need to do therapy or explore, why is being shut off causing you harm, or causing a problem? Are you in a safe enough space to want to allow other people in? Or is this defensiveness also preventing good people from coming into your life? Because walls work both ways. It keeps people out, but it also keeps maybe the people that you want from coming into your life. So now we can look at opportunities. And for this one, we get the Fairy Energy Pokemon card. This one's come up quite a bit in the Ask Me Almost Anything chats. And this one is about healing. It is a pink glowing sphere. It kind of looks like a stylized tulips, where the two petals look like hands cradling something, and the center is a diamond star. And I've been a lot about neuropathic art, so I'm seeing maybe some nodes or synapses. And this makes sense with what we've seen before, where the opportunities is in healing, because we have shut ourselves off for a reason. So one of the opportunities could potentially be exploring therapy, to think about why you have these defense mechanisms. Are there different defense mechanisms that can help you hold your boundaries, can help keep you safe, but be a little more permeable to allow in the people that you want in your life, that could help you in your life? And so what's one small step that you can take? And this is Talo. This looks like a sparrow high above the land, soaring. This is kind of a beautiful picture. So one small step that you can take is to bravely take on those foes. This little Pokemon is being brave. It's trying to fly. It's soaring out there. It's seeking, and it's in warmer climate. We're from Bergamite, our current state, to a happy, soaring, free state. And we know that can't happen all at once. No, I want to stay in the studio. But we can be brave. So when we're thinking about bravery, what's one small step that can be done to help us melt the ice a little bit? And maybe you're not ready for therapy, but maybe you can explore what therapy options are available to me. Maybe you can decide, I'm going to journal how I feel about this. Maybe you can book an appointment. Maybe you're ready to do that. Maybe you can take note of what you think you need healing from. Just pay attention to your life for a few days to see, like, maybe what is a realistic next step for you. I really love this one for people that need to break out of your shell. Maybe it's just as simple as starting with movement, because a lot of times when we're shutting people out, it manifests in your body where you're not moving as much. So perhaps you consider taking more walks, or a break, or looking into somatic therapy videos. There's a ton of them on Instagram and maybe YouTube, exploring different ways of moving your body to get out of being frozen. Have some hot tea. There's so many possibilities to move you from this state to a state of soaring and exploring your healing energy. Okay, cool beans. Don't see anything in the comments yet. Give it another minute or so. And if not, then I'll pull some more Pokemon cards in general, because I definitely like doing that. You know, I'm going to look at another reading. I have so many decks of cards. I'm going to do another reading, and I'm going to use a different deck so you can see that it's not necessarily the cards. It's more about the visuals. So I'm going to go back to that first question about how to stay in community with harmful things and see if a different deck is a different perspective. So I'm going to be pulling now from Chris-Anne's Sears Tarot. And this one we'll shuffle some cards and ask the same questions again. How do I stay in community when it's potentially harmful, right? I want the community to work. How do I be in community? What are my options when being in that community is actively harming me? What are options besides just leaving the community, which is always an option, but then we're not going to be able to build with that particular group of people, which is totally fine. So the first thing we'll look at is what's potentially happening in that situation. And we get the Magician card in this deck. This shows a hooded figure sitting cross-legged. They are looking into kind of like a pool of the cosmos, and there is swirls that looks like an infinity symbol. And generally in the Magician card, it's kind of like as above, so below. So this to me is kind of like that mind-body connection. And if we're dealing community, it's give and take with that as well. So here's somebody that's actively trying to create something. It's a magician, but we know that magic isn't as evident in real life, and magic isn't going to get us done. So we're going to create something together with other people. So then what is the challenge? And this one we have the Queen of Pentacles. This is a brown skin woman wearing a green turban and has antlers, sitting under a tree, wearing kind of brown, natural colored clothing, and she's holding a glowing pentacle. So this is the Queen of Pentacles. And this person looks very smug and satisfied. The court cards in tarot are generally about having control about yourself, like the kings and queens. This is somebody that's more mature. And Pentacles is dealing with relationships, money, financial situations, and sometimes the people in community that hold the power, they do kind of tend to be smug. Or, you know, they can be smug sometimes. This person doesn't look like butter would melt in their mouth. Like maybe they're not ready to listen to what somebody else has to say. And you as the person in the community could be financially harmed by this, or this could represent yourself, and you are somebody that is more emotionally mature and ready to take this on in the community. But she's kind of sitting by herself, eyes so reflecting. So the challenge is, do I really want to deal with this community? Do I want to do this? That's one interpretation. You might have a different one based on what you see. So what's something that could help? And the next card is the wheel. There is a tan blonde woman wearing kind of like a tank dress. It has some fuzzy dice on it. She's balancing on one foot on a spinning wheel. And this is with change, and it's kind of like the change out. So this person also seems kind of not as tied to the outcomes to me, because they're happy and they're balancing on that, and there's many spinning wheels all at once. And sometimes that could be, what is the change we're trying to accomplish, recognizing that we have ups or downs. Are you seeing patterns with what is happening in that situation? So that's something that might be able to help you when you are dealing with community and you're finding challenges with some of the community members. It could also be taking, like, I don't know how to easily say that. It could also be, I will get these words out. It could also be like looking at it from an outside perspective, because right now you're the person in the situation. So there's definitely some feelings involved in that. And it's also striving to feel like this person looks really happy compared to this person that's, sorry, this is the Magician card that's trying really hard. This card, the Queen of Pentacles, that's very confident, but to me seems kind of smug. So what are the things you can do to release yourself from the outcomes? And it might be looking for mediation. It might be taking a step back and really thinking about, well, what did this person say or do? And is there a way that I can transform this, use it as a teachable moment? And again, it's not, I don't want to think that it is the responsibility of people that are generally harmed by being not in the power center, that it's their job to educate other people. I'm just trying to say that when we're in community spaces and you're trying to be in community, it is about communication. So you can communicate, but let go of the outcome. The person may not receive it, and you maybe have to step away, like we talked about before. That's the wheel of change. And drink some more water. And move away from that situation. So finally, what is a potential way forward? And here we have the Eight of Pentacles. So this is, you see the back of a person's head, and they're sitting on a chair, and there is 8 pentacles above them that kind of looks like the phases of the moon, and they're holding up a candle, and it's illuminating various things. There's, let's see, pots of herbs and candles and writing. So I feel like there's a lot of potential here. And in the traditional realm, is normally somebody sitting at a workbench diligently doing the same thing over and over again. And so when you're trying to deal with community, sometimes you might seem like you're having the same conversations over again. When I was when I was an admin, I had to sit in on union meetings and take notes. And it was really frustrating to me because it felt like, aren't we having the same discussions over and over again? But that's, to me, an opportunity to think about, why are we having these disagreements? Perhaps we really haven't gotten to the cause, and that she's shining a light on a situation. When we speak up in community, we're shining a light on situations, and that just gives you data. Are people being receptive to the light? Are you seeing changes, or maybe it's again time to walk away from the situation. So that's another way to look at what we had before. So to recap, we're trying to create something new, aligning the mindset with the reality. Perhaps or it could be a challenge to remain composed in that situation because you don't want to be called angry. So sometimes it could be a challenge to hold your feelings back. Like, it's interesting, as I keep going through this, I get different ideas. And so when you have these conversations, you can have different ideas as well. You're going to have ups and downs and different cycles when you're dealing with various personalities and trying to accomplish something together. And even in the situation, the rules keep changing. Some laws change, policies change, perhaps some of the resources you had access to are now taken away from you. Sometimes the organization has to evolve because something has changed, and therefore your mission or focus can change. But I think when we let go of our attachments to outcomes and our attachments to, some people just like drama for the sake of drama, and I'm not saying that that's you, but there are people that like that. And it's not because they like drama for the sake of drama, but they haven't done the work on themselves to recognize the part that they play in this society. Like, we're not cogs in community. There's a lot of different wheels and things that people are juggling at the same time because their life isn't just that community. There's other things pulling at them as well, and trying to be cognizant of that. And this just kind of reminds me again that this is going to be a work in progress. There's phases as you go through these cycles in communication and trying to shed a light and see what is accessible and available out there. So that was really interesting to me about looking at different perspectives for the same thing, different tools, which is why I like having conversations with people. And I like using visual tools as a clarity concierge because it sparks your creativity. You can think about things in a unique way. And trust me, if I pulled this same thing again a month from now, I would probably have a different interpretation just because of what's happening in my life. I think that visual intuitive tools are great ways to tap into your subconscious. I have been playing around with neurographic art. It's different drawings where it's, the philosophy behind it is that you are trying to create new synapses and connections in your brain. And so one of the exercises we had was to trace wavy lines like cloud patterns or waves in the, and these are very kind of abstract visuals, and these are my sad little attempts at tracing. And I noticed that there weren't a lot of connections happening in the pictures. And these are just visual things. Like, if we wanted to do a Pokemon reading just using these pictures on the situation. So let's say this was the first picture. So again, these are clouds, and I'm looking at the lines here. So if we're going back to this idea of what is community, I would probably maybe think of different patterns and people trying to coalesce. And sometimes we can find commonalities, which are some of these darker synapses where we have intersections. And there's also big open spaces, just a lot of nothingness out there as well. And as the community grows, we get, there's deeper levels of conversation with some of the darker areas. So I'm just showing, for those of you that recently joined, that anything can be used to spark creative thinking about a situation. So this one I'm using some art practicing that I've been doing to figure out how to stay in community when the community is potentially harmful. These are clouds, but how they're kind of colored in now, it looks like mountain ranges to me. And sometimes it can be the equivalent of mountain climbing when you're to work with other people and build community. So the next one can be maybe how, because these are just only have two pictures. How can I make a change? What's the way forward? And when I was drawing the lines for this one, I noticed there was not a lot of connection here. And in my art, I was trying to make connections. So when you're trying to work in community spaces, how can you make those connections organically? Because when you look at the original picture, it's just water waves, right? They just are all working like waves in the ocean. But when you draw over it, now you're manipulating your environment and you can create some of these connections with other people. I love this spot right here, which kind of shows two very similar waves coming together in union. I really just like spot. And so maybe when you're trying to work with community, it's about trying to bring these disparate things together and finding connections, finding commonalities in these kind of situations with other people. So there's you can use so many different things to build a sense of community. So again, this is the Ask Me Almost Anything live marathon. We have about 15 minutes left. So those of you that are on Twitch or YouTube, please feel free to put your questions in the comment. If I have any LinkedIn viewers, please feel free to put your questions in the comments using Pokemon cards to answer the questions. And our card for the day again was Cosmoem, which is about using your intuition to protect yourself. And actually, that kind of ties back into how can you deal with community that is potentially a harmful space. I'm going to come back to Cosmoem because this is a card about gathering light. It is a protector next to the trainer. It's star protection, whatever, but we don't need the stars to protect us. I think sometimes relying on our common sense or those gut feelings to protect you when you're just reading a situation yourself. So I encourage you not to gaslight yourself and pay attention to the feelings that come up in your body when you're in different environments and situation. Pay attention to how people treat you, how they treat other people in the community, and you can Okay, I think we're back. I do apologize for the technical difficulties. Uh, okay, so I'm back, and we're talking about just the concept of Pokemon cards and this work. The idea is that using visuals can tap into your subconscious because it kind of disarms the part of your brain that's trying to keep everything the same. And you're like, no, no, we're just playing. Look, these are harmless little Pokemon cards. And for those of you that can't see, I'm just showing all the Pokemon cards we've pulled today. And it was just really fascinating to me how insightful they can be, and how what will randomly come up. Like, what are the odds of pulling a frozen card and then right next I have a fire card? And I don't know, my scientists out there, my statistical people just say it's the power of coincidence. And if you have X amount of cards, then there's some probability towards that. But I like to call them happy little synchronicities because it does spark imagination. And I've been doing this for a long time now. And so many people are like shocked that, wow, this is so spot on. And again, it could be a placebo effect, but what's wrong with that? Placebos can heal people. People do get better from that. So if it's a placebo effect to the brain, I'm totally fine as long as people are getting what they need, which is clarity, which is a different perspective, which is fun and creative new ways to think about things. Because if it's not fun, why bother? I'm team fun. So again, I am not going to be doing a live tomorrow in solidarity with linking out on Tuesday for any of you that are watching from in. But I can still do this on my other platforms. Oh, that's a good idea. So that's what I'm going to do. See, I'm problem solving right now. Tomorrow, I am going to cancel the LinkedIn part of it, but I will do this on YouTube and Twitch tomorrow. So hopefully you can join me there. I'm going to just not be on LinkedIn. So if you want your daily Pokemon fix, I'm going to repost day 6, but I'm just going to post to YouTube and Twitch tomorrow, and you all can join me. Look at that, problem solving right then and there. And while we're linked out, I'm going to go back to stop, start, continue, because that's one of my favorite spreads to do out there. And for stop, we have a lightning bolt, and we're going to come back to that. It's a yellow lightning bolt Pokemon card. I pulled another one. So that's stop. For start, we have Kamala, which is a koala bear, a sleeping koala bear holding a log on an island. We got Kamala yesterday too, I think. And finally, for the continue, we will go with, Marini, which is a psychic Pokemon under the ocean, and it has a poison sting. So stop, start, continue. So what we do with stop, start, continue is we begin with continue. And tomorrow, like I said, tomorrow we are, well, a couple of us are going to not participate in LinkedIn because of their censorship of other people. So again, if you want your Pokemon cards, you'll have to join from another thing. So it plunges the poison spike on its head into its prey. When the prey is weakened, Marini deals the finishing blow with its 10 tentacles. So for tomorrow, we want to continue to fight against injustice, to plunge our literal zingers into those people that are censoring and doing harm. So that's the things we want to continue doing from a safe place, not necessarily telling everyone our plans, although I'm telling you everything I'm doing tomorrow, but trusting your intuition about what it is that we're trying to do. So that was the continue. The next do in stop, start, continue is stop. And this is a lightning bolt. And sometimes for me, this just looks magic. So it's like, stop sharing our magic with people that don't appreciate it. It can also be a lightning bolt, can be destructive. It can light a fire in some ways. So it's kind of, stop wasting your energy on things that don't love you back or aren't going to help you in the big picture. That's what comes to mind for me. Stop letting people steal your joy, because yellow is kind of for me, just me and my interpretation, you might have a different interpretation, is about empowerment. So stop giving away our power is something I would suggest for taking action. And then what are we going to continue doing? What are we going to start doing? Kamala is koala that dreams through everything. It actually goes through life kind of comatose. I'm not saying that we start going through life comatose, but what's really cool about Kamala is it feeds on poisonous leaves that are poisonous to other systems, but it can break it down and digest it. So we can start to transform those harmful things into something new through taking action, through when you're link into something different, right? Do something different with other people, do some research, learn more about the situation. And it's also cutting off support for the groups that are censoring other people out there. So that's a pretty fun stop, start, continue, I think, anyway. And to help you all prepare for that, we're going to do, until I get some more questions in the chat in these remaining 5 minutes, we'll kind of come back to center with my trusty gong. So let's take a moment and just reflect on what we've talked about. Take a moment to reflect on what community means to you. So I'm going to give a moment to reflect on community. What does solidarity mean to you? What creative solutions can we do to affect the change that we want to see? And just take a moment to return to your body. How are you feeling right now? Are you noticing any feelings or sensations coming up for you? Like for me, I'm really excited about the insights that I received from tonight's session. Let's take a deep breath and return to our bodies. Think about how you want to stop, start, and continue in the coming day tomorrow. All right, we have 2 minutes left. I encourage you to play around yourself. If you've been watching this series, nothing is stopping you from trying out some of the techniques that I have shown you this evening. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. And as I've shown before, it doesn't have to be Pokemon cards. It can literally be pieces of paper, things you draw yourself, random picture generators. You can use quotes. You can use random quotes. You can use verses from whatever philosophy that you have. The whole point is to spark thinking about something from a different, unique perspective so that you will come up with creative routines. So again, tomorrow I will not see you on LinkedIn. Tomorrow's session will only be on YouTube and Twitch. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that and post that for tomorrow so you have the new information. And thank you all for joining. I hope you have a fantastic evening or morning, depending on where you are in the world. I've been Stacy Casson, and I hope you have a great day.